Where am I? Oh, I haven't made a video for a while. That today I'll be making a new video for, a friend of mine from Melbourne called Mark Bishop, aka Minty Comedic Arts. Because I know this YouTuber is going to make me want to do a review of the 20th anniversary of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. However, for some reason, we need to look at what happened to an early idea of what happened to that 1996 King Kong movie. For some reason, what began in 1995 when Cutthroat Island bombed at the box office, it caused Carol Cole Pictures to go bankrupt. Even though it was a co-production between North America and Europe, respectively, this is how its chaotic box office bombing, which took the loss of $147 million as a result of its budget being around $92 to $98 million. From reality, it grossed only up to $10 million, and to saying that it was so boring for everyone to handle. Despite this, a year later in 1996, in this early idea of what King Kong was going to be like, the original idea of King Kong is that Peter Jackson was wanting to transform King Kong into a swashbuckling movie about the story of how his retelling of King Kong would be like. In this early prototype, it was going to be like full of action and some suspense being caused by a swarm of dinosaurs being chased down by a gorilla, in what the gorilla would kidnap Anne Darrow, leading to Caro and anyone else to hunt her down before it's too late. Even though the embittered Anne becomes even more independent than she was in the 1933 film, it felt like a mind-blowing movie that never came to be than what this movie was going to look like. According to its concept art, we would have seen King Kong battling a T-Rex. No. Instead, he would be battling many new dinosaurs that were auditioned to show up in this movie. Many of them being the centipede, who originally appeared in The Legend of King Kong from 1975, including the Allosaurus, the Ankylosaurus, the Alloxatl monsters, the bat creatures, the Brontosaurus, some cave-dwelling centipedes, crabs, mantises, and spiders, as well as an Elasmosaurus, a giant Sumatran crocodile, a giant store spider, as well as a Lambeosaurus, a Utahraptor, a Triceratops, as well as adding a T-Rex in it. Not only that, Peter also created some new dinosaurs like the Venatosaurus and the Vastatosaurus Rex. From this early concept of what this movie was going to be like, it was going to not take place in either New York City, but it would take place in both of the locations, being Chicago and London, where the beginning of the movie would have taken place in the from a long time ago. This movie would have taken place in the year 1997, from around the same time that Blade would take place in that same time period. However, the problem is, it resulted in something awkward that happened. Even though he wrote the screenplay with the help of his wife, Fran Walsh, he targeted that film to come out in the year 1998, but it got cancelled by Universal Pictures a year before. Since then, he wouldn't do this again to pretty much do it. He would be offered to do it to give Universal a second chance to redirect the remake again for the 2005 version. That would be directed by Peter Jackson himself. Although, what happened to this movie is that a lot of its swashbuckling aspects were later retold into what The Mummy was going to be like from that year, 1999, in what this movie also could have come out in the UK. For some reason, we all knew he was involved in Lord of the Rings, Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles, Heavenly Creatures, and, most notably, The Frighteners, for obvious reasons. And the reason why his attempt at King Kong backfired is that Peter Jackson had no idea why he offered his downsides of not being able to direct Planet of the Apes. He had pitched a title called Renaissance of the Planet of the Apes, which felt like more of a direct sequel to the fifth film, would have brought back Roddy McDowell in what he took inspiration from Ian Nathan's Anything You Can Imagine book, when it would have focused around apes in a time period a la Florence meets Venice, where the ape world has gained artistic beauty from a big fat orangutan with all the jowls, as the Pope had a satirical look at religion. The twist in this version would be more like a facade, as they were plastered over art made by humans pawned off as their own art style. However, its aspect would later be stolen of what this movie was going to be like, also got cancelled too. For some reason, the resulting reason why is that both the directors, being that Jane Wolpert and Stuart Beatty, have decided to use his script from 1996 and use it as an excuse to produce their attempt at making a swashbuckling movie. Throughout that year, 2001, when Peter Jackson released The Fellowship of the Ring with the help of Warner Brothers, although they rewrote it in 2002 in what they recycled a lot of elements from that said movie. Even though this will result in 2003's Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. In this supernatural swashbuckler film, directed by Gore Verbinski, this movie, which was produced by Disney and Jerry Bruckheimer, it was based on a 1967 park attraction at Disney theme parks, as the plot goes like this. The story, which follows those imprisoned pirate Jack Sparrow, voiced by Johnny Depp, getting rescued by blacksmith Will Turner, voiced by Orlando Bloom, as they go on a quest to rescue the kidnapped Elizabeth Swan, voiced by Keira Knightley, from the cursed crew of the Black Pearl, that is led by Hector Barbosa, who is portrayed by Jeffrey Rush, who became undead skeletons in Moonlight. Even though this movie, which came out on June 28, 2003, it defied a lot of low pre-release expectations, and was an instant box office success that grossed up to a total of $654.3 million worldwide, making the fourth highest grossing film of 2003. As it received positive reviews from critics, Depp's performance was receiving universal acclaim, claiming that this movie saved Disney for the first time ever since its dreadful drought. Ever since that dreadful post-Renaissance drought began around the year 1999 with Fantasia 2000, this movie alongside Finding Nemo had saved the franchise as a whole. Not only the franchise, but the entire film company as a whole. As I appreciate the whole idea of why it exceeded these expectations for a budget of $140 million, it felt like an interesting idea to seal this whole deal. Despite the knowledge of piracy that they settled on, wanting to put more like connecting both the pirate aspect with the supernatural aspect is like taking inspiration from the Curse of Monkey Island. I couldn't imagine why some monkeys were involved in that movie, but they were cut for unknown reasons. For some reason, if we realized it had to cost so much that it managed to beat The Matrix by a landslide, in what I didn't seem to care for, I noticed it was filmed in, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which hasn't been filmed from around those years before it was. Despite coming out in Anaheim, California at Disneyland Park, it was quite of an interesting success for me to discover it. We always discovered that this was probably the movie that saved Disney for some reason. As a result of this, Disney was on a state of fear and despair from a result of the chaos caused by 9/11. And this is what piracy came to be like this. So, we need to check out the soundtrack. As a result of this, the soundtrack of what we saw, thanks to the CGI's awesome special effects, It feels like a special effects success than what I could imagine. As a result of this, it made it through to the 2004 Oscars alongside Finding Nemo, as they finally got what they wanted from. During the 2004 Oscars, there were loads of movies that were going to get their Oscar nominations. Throughout the 76 Academy Awards, I noticed that this movie ended up losing to Return of the King by accident. For some reason why it lost, it also lost to Finding Nemo for some reason. I know it's kinda sad due to its bad qualities of why most little children found it very disturbing. Although it's quite ridiculous, without any of the funny animals aspects on it, despite the amazing soundtrack of what we got in the music. The soundtrack was composed by no other than Hans Zimmer, along with the help of Klaus Badelt. And this soundtrack is by far an instant masterpiece classic. It's a milestone in what I finally saw. In what I can imagine, if you pictured Zorro and the Ring together, they would have like a baby for some reason. And with that out of the way, I'd say I'm going to give this movie... I'm going to give this something very, very interesting. So let me find an interesting number I could think of. So, what's the right number I could think of? 7. Aha. 7.2 out of 10. Aha! I'd finally give this movie a 7.2 out of 10. Because I seem to like everything of what I loved about this movie. Yeah. I could imagine this is by far one of my favorite Disney movies I grew up with. However, that would be nothing compared to how Kingdom Hearts 2 also served as some sort of expansion to what we could get. If you see the 2006 video game of that same name, it featured an episode dealing with how Pirates of the Caribbean came to be. Did you know that Kingdom Hearts 2 depiction of Pirates of the Caribbean also served as an adaptation expansion to the 2003 movie? Not only that, it's also a direct sequel to The Curse of the Black Pearl. Realizing that it may not be an outtake sequel or a standalone sequel, but it's connected to be like some sort of interesting concept. As we know, this episode, which dealt with the episode involving around Sora exploring Port Royal, as they realized they confronted some sort of horde of villains led by Luxor, leading Organization 13, to steal the Aztec gold. Even though, which consists of some tribe of savage natives who have tried to defeat an unknown heartless called the Grim Reaper, who didn't make it to the first movie, is quite amazing. Despite adding the Aztec aspect that what King Kong could have used, this served as like a direct sequel to it. And it also got another one involved with Kingdom Hearts 3 in 2019. It's kind of awesome. Well, I had learned my lesson. It's quite awesome that they've done a good collaboration. I appreciate Square Enix's collaboration with Pirates of the Caribbean. And I always appreciated Disney for discovering that they had to set things right on what the Country Bears fails. The Country Bears fails to do so. Well, with that out of the way, you should hit the like button and subscribe. So this is me, Sarah Kamura, signing off. Bye-bye!